much for joining us today, for taking time out of your morning. Aware it's a Friday, but hopefully this is just kick back, relax and take some information in. So the aim of today's webinar is to give you an overview of product information management systems and basically just how they can help your business. So taking us through it is going to be Alan and Karl from In-River. Alan comes from Delaware Digital, Karl from In-River. And yeah, just to let you know from the off that the webinar is set to run for around about 30 minutes. We may overrun slightly depending on how deep in the weeds we get, but you feel free to drop off of that if you've got other commitments. As I said, your cameras and mics are turned off by default, and we will send a recording just after the webinar so you can reference it. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Alan and Karl, and they're going to take you through today's webinar. Over to you guys.
Awesome, thank you, Adeline. So hello everybody, we are webcasting this live from Cornwall, which I think is an achievement in itself because they have electricity and Wi-Fi that works. So I'll admit I'm surprised.
Just about.
Yeah, and I did promise not to make fun of Cornwall, but I'm blatantly just going to do that repeatedly, so apologies in advance. So I'm Alan, this is Karl. We're here to talk today about PIM and just have a conversation in a bit more detail about what's great about it, what's not great about it sometimes, when it can work, when there are challenges. If at any point you've got any questions, feel free to pop them down. I think there's a chat and Adeline will be able to sort of triage them, then we can answer them either as we go or towards the end. But hello, if there's any challenges with the technology, please don't blame us. I will blame Cornwall repeatedly. So thank you. In terms of the slides, if we just shove along to the next one. We're going to go through, I think there's about 6 or 7 questions. And we're starting off with kind of the basic one, which is what is a PIM? You know, how do we define a PIM? How would you define a PIM, Karl?
Well, for most companies, the PIM should be their single source of truth for all product information. So where you would store your product images, your descriptions, everything related to that digital twin of your product is what we would class a PIM as. It can manage that data from end to end. So bringing data into the PIM so that you have it stored from your ERP systems and the likes of, but then also it should be able to syndicate out, so it can send that data out to end channels such as e-com or maybe even off to be printed or wherever else you need to send that product information data. So that's what we would class a PIM as.
All right. So when we talk about data, we're going to get into this in a bit more detail, but when we talk about actual product information, just for simplicity,
yeah,
for real basics, what information are we talking about? What's different between, for example, an ERP system and an In-River?
So the PIM system, the idea of it is that it's going to be simple for all teams to be able to access. So the difference between an ERP and a PIM is that your PIM is going to be your repository for that data, the product data. So the images, the descriptions of. But when you go to send it out, maybe the marketing team need it to send marketing emails out or along the lines of, they'll be able to access it, they'll be able to claim it. You don't really want them going into your ERP system and messing with your database of the data itself. A PIM system is going to be much more agile, easier for them to use. And also you can start automating sends as well. So if you sell through third parties, for example, then you can make sure that they're receiving your product data the way they should. So it's in the right form, so the images and the description all matches up the way you want it to be. That's what we would class a PIM as. I think some companies will use an ERP as a PIM, and I think for some companies it can work okay. It depends really on the complexity of the products you have, the amount of attributes you have aligned to them, and images and videos and whatever else you need to assemble all in one place. And a PIM can do all of that, it can have all of it in one place. If you use an ERP, there's a good chance you're also using spreadsheets, got images somewhere else, all sat with different divisions. A PIM can be that single source of truth.
So, yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, the thing I always say, and I'll probably get shot for saying this, is that if ever you see somebody using a spreadsheet in a business, then that should be a red flag.
Yeah.
Because anything that's kept on a spreadsheet, anything that's there, you never know necessarily who's updated it, when it was updated, if it's being used. And if you're taking something from a spreadsheet and then using it in another system, that always scares me. Always scares me.
Very scary. We've met just recently. We've met with at least 2 prospects who've said that they not only have spreadsheets, but they have some that they will not let the rest of the business touch because it is their right now. It's their single source of truth for product data. He said, so you're the only ones with access. And yeah, no one else is allowed. I said, what happens if you're both in the same car and something bad happens? But no one gets our product data. It's as simple as that, because they don't want anyone affecting it, right? If anyone affects it, then it breaks the chain, and all of a sudden, their end channels, which is so important to their revenue, go wrong. So yeah, spreadsheets are alarming. They're a problem, and depending which vertical you work in as well, it can be really alarming. Again, spoke to another prospect not so long ago who needs to supply with their products. They need to provide data about things like allergies and what might be in the product, just in case someone that has allergies is going to buy that product. And they mentioned that the data for that is sat in a separate database to their actual product data, so they have to match the two together, merge them. So what happens if you get the wrong data with and their eyes went up as if to say, it's happened. And it's human error, it's bound to happen. So yeah, spreadsheets are alarming. They are a concern. They're a way to get going. For a lot of companies, you might be in that position today where you're thinking, actually, this is working okay. I would urge you to speak to those people who manage those spreadsheets and ask them, is this working okay? Is there a problem here? And usually there is.
Isn't that like the whole point of this? And apologies, Adeline, we will get to the slides at some point. Sure, I'll stop talking. But it's like every company manages product data. Everyone does it,
Yeah.
They just might not necessarily be doing it in an efficient way, or in a way that's safe, that protects their data, or in a way that is maximizing their data. Is that a fair sort of way to describe it?
Very fair, yeah. When we meet with prospects, most of them don't have a PIM in place today. They're managing product data, like I said, without a PIM.
Yeah.
And what they're missing out on there, operationally, was obviously inefficient because of the time it takes to manage these spreadsheets. And then it's humans having to talk to other humans in different teams. They're not managing things out of a solution that is actually, programmed to push you through a workflow to bring a product onto the website, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's inefficiencies there, and there's time is money, so that's costing the business a lot of money. Then there's human error, that's costing the business money. So just in cost savings alone, having a PIM solution pays for itself usually tenfold, just in cost savings. When you start looking into it properly, I don't think a lot of companies understand the total cost of ownership of managing a product today. That's something we try to help unpack throughout the sales process, because we do find a lot of prospects come saying, we really need a PIM, it's killing us, especially end users. We're in a really bad state right now, we need something. But when they go and speak to their board, or senior stakeholders who have the budget and the decision holders, everything looks like it's managed okay today, but they don't understand how much work is going in and how much risk is involved in what's happening. And they don't understand how much money is being wasted in doing it that way. So we try to help companies unpack the value of taking on a PIM and starting to automate a lot of these processes. And that's where the true value tends to lie. Like I said, just in cost savings alone, the return on investment is always there. And then of course there's an increase in revenues with add-on sales and get stickier with your customer base, whether you're B2B or B2C.
The way that I always see it is twofold, is that a product information management project, a PIM project, is never something that people want to do first of all. There are always sexier things. We want to do a CMS, we want to do this, we want to do this fancy stuff there. But it's almost like the work involved, or the challenges involved, are invisible to the C-level, because it just works. It's like the swan, it just works. So that it's difficult to have those conversations. As soon as you make it visible to them, every single PIM project I've ever been involved with, there's been quite a few now, every single one of them afterwards, they've said, do you know what? It's brilliant. I wish we'd have thought about this earlier, because they always pay back.
It's interesting when you speak to people and they say, oh, we've just launched a new e-com platform, and PIM's going to be second or third for us down the line, and you think, what's powering that e-com platform? Because you may have the best e-com solution on the planet, but there's a lot of processes that happen outside of it that should be managed, a lot of them within a PIM or DAM, for example. Then if you haven't got those fundamentals, those foundations in place, a lot of time, effort and money can be almost wasted on the sexy looking products, like you say, CMS and e-com. So we urge a lot of the time when we're in these sales processes with prospects, for them to at least have a look at what the roadmap could look like if they start with PIM first, and how that might be easier then when they integrate into a new e-com system. So yeah, that's it's a common theme. Like you said, it's hard to see the amount of effort that goes in sometimes on a PIM, and hard to see the value that bringing a product information management solution could bring. And that's something we try to do early on in discussions with the customer. bring that out.
Makes a lot of sense. I think we've probably run through that first slide and gone back to some other conversations. So the next starter for us is how can PIM help your business? And again, with this one, there's a bit of a running theme here. There are the three main standouts for us. You know, the words on the slide shout about efficiency, accuracy, and sales. But when we talk about that in practice, if there's a real customer out there, what do we actually mean by efficiency? Give me an example of efficiency.
Efficiency for me is the ability for everyone to work from within a single streamlined platform. So within our PIM solution, a workflow, for example, can be managed. So a new product, you're trying to get it to market, you can manage the onboarding of that product within the solution. No need to go and tap someone on the shoulder and try to get them to do something, or try to call someone. It's all done within the platform. So they're getting notified and nudged to say, this is your next step, this needs to be done. And before you know it, everyone's cleared what they need to clear, and your product is being able to launch ahead of time. Time to market is the key there. So we can improve efficiencies in a PIM solution with things like that. But outside of that, I guess efficiency can also mean making sure that end channels are saying what you want them to say about your product, and if they're not, automating that step as well. So you have a solution that can actually see what third parties are saying about your product and start to automate the updates there, should they not be presenting it the way you want them to. So a number of different ways to improve efficiencies, but streamlining the operational tasks at hand is the key.
See, I've worked in product management, and I know what it's really like. I've been sat there in meetings or in offices where there's people running around. Have you got this? Have you got the latest data? Or I need some sort of measurement for this. Who's got that? Literally running around an office. Who's got the latest piece of data? And I think, when you've lived that life, when you've seen it, it's like you realise how important a PIM is going to be.
I can only imagine. And then, of course, if you sell through channels, how are you making sure that your end channel partners are ready to go with the launch of that product at the same time? I always think back to, I remember when I used to work with Sony at a previous company, and when they launched the PlayStation 5, we were heavily involved in that process. But I was selling the marketing technology, so we had everything in place for them, ready to go with getting the messaging out there for them.
Yeah.
But their partner ecosystem, who they sell very well through, were not ready.
Yeah.
They didn't have the same types of capabilities. And thinking back now that I know what I do about PIM, that really could have solved the problem back then, which was a monumentous issue at the time for them. So yeah, it can do a lot for yourself, for your own channels, but also for those third parties, should you use third parties to sell through.
No, I think the second point here is accuracy. And for me, accuracy is easy. It's really easy. And the example I will always give is Grenfell. So you've got a situation like Grenfell where the cladding on the outside of the building had a certain fire performance. That fire performance would have been sold to the architects, the people who are building the building. It's really important. If the architect sees a number there that says, okay, it's got 30 minutes fire performance, and they needed 60, for example, the difference between 30 and 60 minutes is literally people living and dying. And to run through a process like that and have incorrect data, or have something where maybe someone's made a mistake, somebody's done a typo, maybe there's a product change, and a piece of data that, okay, it's just a number on a spreadsheet. It's fine. It's just a number on a spreadsheet. No, it's not. It's actually, it could be that important. It could be that relevant. So it's.
And I gave the example earlier on of needing to put information about allergies. Not just to keep you, conformed, but for example, if you were to send your product, you sell it through Amazon. You send your product information through Amazon. Yeah. They have a number cut off on the item description, and maybe your allergy information sits underneath that number cut off, and all of a sudden something that's business imperative to you that could cause you all sorts of ramifications. You haven't done your job wrong. In that case, you've sent it correctly. However, you're not able to check on their channels. With a PIM solution like ours, you can do that. So the accuracy on your channels, on their channels, everything should be formatted and correct to make sure you never have those types of issues. But yeah, completely agree. It's not just about the sending data the right way, but making sure that you're able to get down to all of those different attribute layers, so that whoever's making that purchase decision can do it properly. Because I imagine the Grenfell one would have certainly been very different otherwise.
Helpful. And then the third one is sales. I mean, sales. To me, it's almost like it's the outcome of all of this, because if you've got the right information, you know, it's going to get there onto the sales pipeline. You're going to move stuff, but it's the things that you don't see, which is, you know, I've been on the other side of the fence, and I've been a retailer, and a retailer gets information from suppliers. You know, and we display it on the website if we're trying to sell these products. If a supplier gives us information that we think is incorrect or we're not too sure about from a sales perspective, it kind of doesn't matter how good the price is.
Yeah.
We'll always have the thinking of well, that supplier, what else have they got wrong? You know, it's that level of trust, and so it's you don't see this. Nobody talks about it. It's hidden, isn't it? It's that extra bit of trust.
It is. Yeah, I think that the trust is definitely a big part of this. You know, not just for your resellers, but also consumers. They need to build trust with you as a brand. So transparency is key. You know, even going back to how those materials were sourced. You know, a lot of people are going to be mindful of this going forward. Sustainability is top of mind for a number of companies, but how often do they relate it back to their product that they're selling? And that, you know, there's all sorts of legislations coming in the near future in Europe, especially. And that is going to contribute to sales as well, being transparent about your product, making sure that your end consumer, as well as maybe your channel partners, understand exactly what's gone into that product and how it's been sourced and made, especially if you've got a good story to tell there. Why not use that and market it? But I think also on top of that, being able to arm those sales teams with your product information instantly, you know, quicker than the competition, clearer than the competition. If you're, again, going back to channel partners, but if they are buying from you and also buying from your competition, if you can give it to them in a great form that they can easily put onto their own channels, then they're going to want to buy from you over the competition. You're making their lives easier and their time to market quicker as well.
Yeah, I always call it nudge theory, isn't it? It's just, if you can just make everything just that 1% easier, that 1% better, and without realizing it, you're becoming that preferred partner, you're that preferred solution, which always helps. No, it's cool. And so I'm just going to leave on one thing, which you didn't talk about, but on the sustainability side. So I've got teenage daughters, and one of the things my youngest daughter's doing at the moment is she's doing a lot of Vinted sales. So I'm learning about Vinted. I'm getting
your wardrobe going down.
Oh yeah. So she comes hunting for stock. And then says, "Dad, that's really unfashionable." But the whole point of Vinted is it's a second life, isn't it? It's taking a product and then effectively reselling it on. Now, this whole circular economy, that whole market is only going to grow. But when something gets sold on again for the second time or third time, people are going to want to know, well, where has that cotton come from in that shirt? Where's that? What's that golden thread? Because today we think about it for the first time, for the first sale, aren't we?
Yeah.
But for that second sale is just as important. I mean, can we help better with the pick?
You can, yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of ways of doing it, but QR codes on labels and the likes of, so that you're able to scan it and go back to understanding how are these products sourced and were they sourced in an ethical way?
Yeah.
And how should I dispose of this eventually? You know, what does that look like as well? Especially if you're buying electronic devices, any devices with batteries and the likes of. I'm a nightmare for this. I'm always clearing out. My wife doesn't like to keep anything that we don't need around, so I'm off to the dump quite often. And the amount of times that, well, we can't put that in there. You know, it's got this sort of battery, so it needs to come over here. So educating the consumers there and being transparent, it almost goes back to that, you know, that accuracy in the sales piece again. Being transparent about the product, and again, if you're doing things right, and I've seen a lot of great companies out there doing things right when it comes to sustainability and their ethical practices. So if you're doing it well, why not take advantage of this and let the world know about it? Because again, it will help you. Just as certain, I'm thinking of one or two brands out there that are really pushing that sustainability message. Patagonia, one of them. You know, every time I see one of their Instagram like short videos with reels, I'm outside Instagram reels. You see that someone's wearing a jacket and they show what it looked like before it had been, you know, made up by them, and it makes me as a consumer want to buy from them. It certainly seems a good note to me. So I think there's a number of reasons to do that, but outside of all that, compliance, you know, legislation is coming in, and if you're not able to prove all of that, then you will be fined, and that comes in over the next couple of years in Europe. So this twofold, it's trying to increase sales and using it for marketing purposes, but of course outside of that, to do greater good and make sure you're on the right side of legislation.
That's super cool. Should we go to the next one? Yeah, let's get a bit more technical. So yeah, how easy is it to actually integrate with existing systems and processes?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting one because it really depends on companies' architecture, how they're set up today. Are they set up in a composable way where everything can integrate and talk to each other? Are they set up in more of a legacy position, which can be a lot more difficult? You know a lot more about this than I do. I would say I only know our PIM. I can't speak for other vendors, but for our PIM at InRiver, it's got out of the box connectivity. So ERP systems we can connect to, and then downstream into e-com solutions we can connect to. Any content management system can connect in. DAMs are the same. So we have a number of out of the box connectors, and then when it comes to syndication, we can syndicate to anywhere. So if you sell through niche channels that are not available within the platform, we can do that. We can find a way to connect them with their agreements. So there's a number of different ways to connect from our side. So we see when someone talks about connectivity to us, or we need to be able to connect, that's a positive for us. We like those conversations. I'm not sure if it's the same for every PIM vendor, but for us, yeah, a lot of it's out of the box.
Yeah.
Or we go to our brilliant trusted partners and we say, there's some integrations here that we don't have out of the box, and we need to find a way. And you always find a way. There's always a way. So yeah, connectivity is important. You don't want to be duplicating efforts. There's nothing worse.
It's one of those things that people don't think about so much in a project, but when you're running a project and you've got something, let's take this about Cycle. Cycle, great CMS system. We're not going to talk about it today, but yeah, really great CMS system. Others are out there. But if you've got a CMS system where you just want to be able to integrate the data across, okay, the fact that it's out of the box from a project perspective, that means, well, you're saving time, you're saving money. It is literally, and the coders are going to hate me for saying this, but it's literally like 2 or 3 clicks, blah, 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 done. Versus, some other solutions in the market where you've got to build it. And okay, it's not going to be long, it's not too hard, but every single time you've got to build something, it's a little bit harder. I think one of the things that I've found with InRiver, and I use a customer as well, I've got an interest on this one. I did buy InRiver previously. One of the things I really liked about it was the fact that the API was just so easy and so usable. So, we've been in a very real world project where we needed to integrate, we needed to pull data across from ERP, we needed to bring them together. There's lots of different ways of doing that. There's always an answer. It's always possible. The question is, well, how long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? And how many other problems are you going to cause by doing that?
Yeah.
And InRiver kind of worked for us brilliantly. Hence the reason why I'm a bit of a fanboy nowadays. But it's something that as a marketeer, you don't think about too deeply. You just want it to work.
And it's total cost of ownership as well, isn't it? Down the line, if you're having to build your own API connections, what does that look like? And I remember in previous life selling other technologies where companies would say, oh no, we manage our own, APIs, and we do that. And you think that's timey, and also, you may have to update them every, few months. And
you just say timely.
Timely. It's going to take a lot of time. But also it's going to cost. And that was something I always found really interesting here at InRiver when I was meeting with the team and speaking with product about coming in. And I asked about integrations. It feels like we've got a number of different ways as well. So we've got out of the box integrations, we've got API at REST, and all sorts of different ways to connect in. So it certainly feels for us like a differentiator as well when we're coming up against competition. But in the long run, I like to hope it speeds up time to market the implementation, and also reduces that total cost of ownership over time.
Yeah, so nowadays, if you look at the connectors that you have, so the optimize the connector, sorry, optimizing Opti, that's awesome. That's, I've used that personally. That's a great one. And also you've got the connections into the other systems like DAMs and other things. So the brilliant connector into
Binder.
Yeah. What's it, Binder? Digital Suite. I know the part of the family. So yeah, lots of good stuff. So for me, easy integration with existing systems and processes. I mean, it's kind of like it has to be easy. It's just gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, there's not an e-com platform we can't connect to. Some of them are easier than others, but it's the way forward to keep that speed to market.
I think we're running a little bit late. Yeah, we were talking too much. Should we shuffle to the next one? Okay.
Good question.
So how much does a PIM system cost, and what's the return on investment?
How much have you got? No, when it comes to the cost of the PIM system, again, vendors charge differently. So some PIM vendors will charge for the platform, then for the amount of SKUs you have and the amount of users. In River's built for enterprise business, so we give unlimited amount of SKUs, unlimited amount of users, where we charge for the platform and connectivity. How many connections are you going to need? How many languages are you going to be operating in? And then, off the back of that, we then will price efficiently. And if there's parts of the platform the customer's not going to be utilizing, then we can cut the cost associated to it. So you're paying for what you get. One thing we believe really strongly is you should never pay for any shelfware. That's no good for anyone. You see these bundle packages and customers say, oh, we're not going to use that. Oh, it's part of the deal. You get it anyway. You're paying for something you're not going to use. We don't do that. We try and tailor a price. So I'm giving you a very grey answer here.
You don't give a number, but
it's hard to give a number.
To me, it's kind of easy because it's you guys are a SaaS supplier. So it's not like the olden days where you used to buy a piece of software and you put it on a server and you just leave it in a corner getting dusty and stroke it occasionally. It's not like that anymore. It's literally, we're in the world of composable, we're in the world of everything being in a cloud. And for me, it's kind of simple, which is a company is going to invest in a PIM. They're going to, whatever they invest, they're going to need to get a return. That investment is going to be, okay, they could be paying license fees to you guys, they could be paying fees to us to actually get the thing in there and get it working properly. Okay, that's their investment. Now, if it doesn't work, if they don't like, the system, they'll vote with their feet and they'll just walk away and say, do you know what? We invested this money, we don't spend it anymore. We'll just switch back to spreadsheets. I mean,
to companies like ours who work on subscription models, so we charge them a license fee, which is an annual fee. It's imperative to us that we know the customer's going to see value before we take them on, which is why we go through building out a business case with prospects early in the sales cycle. So many prospects are so keen to see the technology. Show us a demo. So we can certainly show you a demo, but until we really understand what your biggest pain points are, what you're trying to use a PIM for, we don't then understand, what the value is going to be for you. So showing you a demo when we understand the value is so much different to showing you a demo when we don't really know enough about what you're trying to do as a business. So I think some prospects might find it a bit frustrating on first calls with sales teams and vendors when we're saying, tell us about this and tell us about that, and how does that work? But if we don't understand exactly how you're going to use the solution, we don't know what sort of value it's going to be. And I would much rather say early on in the sales cycle to a customer, actually, a PIM like ours isn't going to be the right one for you because it can do all of this and you actually just need very basic functionality, and then give them a name for another one. Whereas, 8 times out of 10, most companies are looking for something like ours that's flexible. We've got some differentiators that are key for them. So the price of a PIM can really vary. I only know the prices of our solution, but it's something you need to start with the use cases. What are you going to use it for? What sort of value is it going to bring? And then the cost, associated to it, for us tends to come up extremely valuable. So an ROI model, the next one on the tab here. We try to run an ROI model in every process we go through, and we use the actual percentage figures of our customer database. So we have account managers, customer success managers working with all our customers who can feed back their time to market increased by X% compared to where it was before using InRiver. So we're able to then use all of that goodness, all of those metrics, and give an average number. And when we run through an ROI process, we can do conservative, realistic, and then I mean,
they're marketing.
And I always try and go as conservative as possible. But what I'm finding when I'm getting into those processes is it's landing really well. The return on investment seems tangible, and we're talking 1% sometimes. If we increase this by 1%, and you can see we normally do it by 15, if we do it by 1%, you're going to see this amount of change to time to market or revenue or whatever that may be. So the ROI usually stacks up extremely well if you don't use a PIM today. If you've got a PIM today, then the key is to figure out where the differences are going to lie in your strategy.
But that's an interesting thing we've not covered that yet, is we're talking a lot about if somebody's working from spreadsheets, they've never used the PIM before and they're coming across to something else. But there's a lot of people out there that, and we hear this a lot, I've heard this a lot recently, saying, oh yeah, we've done our digital transformation. Yeah, we did that. And then the next question from me is, well, okay, how's it going? Well, often the response is, it's not quite what we expected. So you've got opportunities where people are using PIMs out there. and there might be competitors to you. And the question is then, is it always worth taking a second look? You know, going in and saying, actually, why isn't the PIM working for you today? What sort of issues have you seen before?
Yeah, I think
There's an existing solution, and you want to, you know, that they're having challenges.
if I'm busy at the moment in conversations with prospects, and I would say half of them have a PIM already.
Yeah.
And they're doing the due diligence. They're coming back around. Maybe a renewal's come up. They're having some pain. They're not particularly happy, and they're saying, "How would you at InRiver be able to solve these tasks and problems?" And then we can associate those use cases back to an ROI, because we can see the difference between our solution to theirs. So yeah, there's a number of ways we can add value to that, and I do think companies should do their due diligence, because our platform, we've been around now for 16 years. It's not the same platform today it was 16 years ago. It's not the same platform today it was 2 years ago. There's change and, you know, involvement every 3 months. So why would you not want to have a look at what's out there again? I certainly recommend it. We, for instance, you know, we really enjoy going through RFP processes. I know a lot of vendors don't. I love them. I just think it gives a company a really good opportunity to actually make an informed decision across the business.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the time it's a single team that are coming and looking. Maybe the budget's with IT, so they come and look and pick it. But that doesn't work well for everyone else in the business sometimes. Whereas an RFP, everyone's looking at it. So yeah, I think it's a really good idea to have a look at other PIMs out there.
It's like one of the fears that some companies have is, well, we've spent all that money on system X, and what they don't realise is actually the shift from one PIM to another PIM. So from our side, it's relatively straightforward, because a lot of the work's already been done. There's already a data model, there's already data there. It is a lift and shift, but we're not talking a massively complicated project. We're talking something that's, I'll say this out loud, but a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's not hugely expensive. So that shouldn't be a barrier.
It shouldn't, and I think a lot of time it is. And sometimes, you know, there's politics at hand. Maybe it's the person who picked the first PIM who now has to say, actually, there might be something better out there. But if that's the case, and you've run an ROI model, you understand the difference, that's a nice conversation to have with the board and C-suite, to say to them, that PIM's done its job.
Yeah.
There's now something we think is going to bring us even more value. We're ready for the next step, and that's a conversation we're in a lot at the moment. We're becoming that. You know, they've used an entry level PIM for basic functionality. Now they need something that can handle the complexity of their data, all the attributes they have, that can work across service, sales, marketing, everywhere in the business. And that's a strong conversation for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do we have next? Do we have to answer this one?
Well, yeah, it comes up a lot, actually. It comes up a lot because, oh, there we go. We've got the differences right here. I would say some MDM solutions have some PIM capabilities within them. Is probably the best way to start. It's a master data management system. It can do a lot of different things, and within them they'll have some PIM capabilities. But as you can see from here, and you know, the purpose, I guess, is the main point to focus on here. PIMs like ours will have some functionality that the MDM solution don't have as well. So the key is always use cases and objectives. What are you trying to get out of all of this? Because we are coming in at the moment on a couple of opportunities here in Europe where there's already an MDM in place. They've been using it for a PIM, and they're going to use us now for a PIM, mainly because of our syndication or digital shelf analytics capabilities, because the MDM solutions they're using don't have that in play today. So that's, if anything, I kind of see that they can work hand in hand and can fit quite nicely together.
I'm seeing that more and more. So I was with a customer a couple of weeks ago, and they're going through a huge sort of ERP transformation, and they've got an existing MDM, and just talking to them about how they were using it, they were saying, well, actually it's this, but they were missing that PIM gap. And by having a PIM, it makes the syndication easier. It makes the fact that you're transferring that information across from a digital shelf perspective. It just, you know, almost like talking to them about it. You saw their eyes open, like, oh, we didn't realise. It's like, oh, that can solve this problem, and it's not ridiculously expensive. Like, oh, cool.
I think a lot of our company actually came from MD. So the sales team have moved from MDM solutions and come to selling PIM, and they're realising, going back to some of those sales cycles, that what they actually, the customer wanted a PIM.
Yeah.
But they sold them an MDM solution, and now there's all this shelfware stuff they're not doing enough because they're utilising their ERP really well or something else. So yeah, there's a time and a place for an MDM, and I think for some companies it can bring a huge amount of value. I think for other companies, they can suffice with an ERP, a PIM, a DAM, an e-com solution without one. So it really depends on the functionality of what you're looking to achieve and which teams are going to be utilising the tool.
Yeah, and that's kind of like where we come in a lot. We have a lot of those conversations and looking at the current architecture, look at the future architecture, and it's trying to figure out which pieces of the jigsaw go together best for that customer. And it's not always the same. It's not opinions are not always the solution. I'll be honest.
A lot of the acronyms, yeah, a lot of the time you find people will have a budget for an acronym.
Yeah.
I've got a budget for an MDM solution. I've got a budget for a PIM solution.
Yeah.
And then when you actually get the use cases out on the table, sometimes if they forget the acronym, sometimes it's the other solutions that would fit better. So yeah, I think that's where I think a lot of companies could benefit from talking to a system integrator first before reaching out to the vendors. In a lot of other regions around Europe, we see that quite often. In the UK, we tend to see people come to the vendor first. So they've looked at Gartner and Forrester, they'll call us, can we have a demo? And they haven't quite figured out sometimes the requirements, the use cases, the scenario, what they're looking to achieve. And if they did, then sometimes that might be a different story when they come to us. So yeah, there's obviously lots of ways of doing it, but I think that sometimes could bring a lot of value.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And the next one we have. So
yeah,
we've done a project. We've got a fantastic customer. They've come on board. We've done an amazing project. It's all brilliant and it's up and running. And then what? How do we know if the PIM project has been a success?
Yeah, so any customer signing with us, and I can only again talk for InRiver, any customer who comes on board with us, we put in place a set of key objectives and metrics that we're looking to achieve with the PIM milestones. We're going to get to this point where every product is available by then. And then it's time to market. How long does it take? We're going to increase or decrease, the time it takes to bring it to market. And eventually from all of this, we want to increase sales on these end channels. So we put those parameters in place with our customers to be able to monitor it and monitor it against these things, efficiency, accuracy, sales. So that's our way of doing it. I don't know about other PIM vendors, but that would certainly be the way we do it. We work on it extensively, not just an ROI model and a business case model, but the key objectives and results proposition. And we all agree, we all sign off, and everyone's on board to achieving those goals. And that way you really get a true partner out of it on our side and on their side.
Yeah.
It's a great way of doing things. And I think there are still in tech sales, there's still too many vendors out there that you kind of sell you a platform and say, there you go, you've got what you wanted and you plug it in and away you go. It's never the case. Or they leave you in the hands of whoever's implementing and they're done. Every customer that works for us gets a customer success manager and account manager who work with them. I'd love to say I stay on the accounts. I'm in pre-sales and I move on, but I have extensive handovers with that team. They come into the sales cycle so that they're ready for the handover thereafter. And I do like to stay in touch with customers. Actually, I think it's really beneficial for my next sales process to know how you're getting on and where the value is and what you're seeing. So
I mean, for me, it's like if you're talking to a customer, I don't want to be offensive here, but nobody ever wakes up in the morning and go, I need a PIM. Nobody ever does that, do they? It's like they've got a problem that needs to be solved. And that problem might be actually we're producing all these brochures in all these countries and we've got websites and we've got, e-commerce websites, we've got partner websites, we've got to get this stuff out and we need to fix it. So there's always a problem. Now, for me, when it comes to the ROI piece, I always talk to a customer and say, like, okay, what is the problem that we're solving? What's the value to you of solving that problem? How do we measure it? And then it's up front. It's almost like the first slide in every presentation that we're ever going to give, just to remind us, guys, on the project, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this. We're looking to drive this. We're looking to remove this inefficiency, and it's going to give us this result.
yeah,
And if it's not measurable, it's not manageable. So great example for me, there was a customer I was working at, and the metric was, can we save 2 hours a day of the people in this team? And I was like, really? Do you think you can save 2 hours? You spend 2 hours a day chasing data around, right? Yeah, 2 hours a day. Okay. And I hit it.
wow,
It was amazing. I mean, it was at the time I was like, wow. But when you then pull that back to, okay, how much people cost?
Yeah.
And what's the opportunity cost of then chasing this data and not doing something else more important? It's amazing. So for me, it's just be upfront.
Mhm.
Be really sort of decisive about what it is you want to change, and what the value of that change is going to be. And it comes back to why you're doing the thing in the first place.
Exactly, and a lot of the time it fits right back into the company's overall objectives and what they're trying to do as well. So we get into those conversations quite a lot too, and I love a metric like the one you just pointed out there, because it's something everyone can get on board with from every team. Everyone's understanding the value, whether you're C-suite or end users. Everybody sees the value in something like that. So whilst we hear things like, we're operating spreadsheets and we need it in a single system, what we're actually hearing is we need to save time, and efficiency is the main gain they're making there. So it's sometimes hard to get to the bottom of the true value you can see from efficiencies and gains. Just things like knowing that your end product is now being presented in a correct manner, if you like, it's accurate. How can you really always say the value to that? But I think if it's in line with the overarching business objectives of we want to be transparent, we want to make sure that our customers are informed with with what we do and why we do it, then there's a lot of values that align as well.
I'm with you. So the good news and the bad news is we are viciously overrunning. So we're obviously talking too much. What I suggest is we'll probably do one more.
So I was just going to say that we have overrun a wee bit, so I was just going to carve out a wee bit of time. So if there's anyone that's got any burning questions that they would like to ask Alan and Karl, now is the time to just pop it into the chat there. Give you a wee second if you have. If not to worry, you can always email us or get us on LinkedIn if something comes to mind later on. But I think that is where we are just now. That was a great informational session there, guys. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Got a wee applause there. Thanks very much. It's great. Okay, so as mentioned before, I'll send a link to this recording. So if you want to rewatch it or if you've got any other questions, get in touch. I will send it to everyone who attended today. And thanks again, guys.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.